September 13, 1940, 14 o'clock hours, the Libyan-Egyptian border. The thermometer inside the hull of the M1340th tank reads 125 degrees Fahrenheit, but the steel feels hot enough to sear skin on contact. There is no shade. There is no silence. There is only the roar of diesel engines and the grinding of tracks against the hard-packed crust of the desert floor. You are watching the prelude to a catastrophe. Marshal Rodolfo Graziani is pushing the Italian 10th Army across the wire, moving east from Libya into Egypt. From a high vantage point, it looks like a blackened river of iron flowing through a sea of beige. Trucks, artillery pieces, and thousands of infantrymen are marching into the void. Their objective seems simple on a map: reach the Suez Canal. But the map lies. In North Africa, the distance isn't measured in miles. It's measured in water, petrol, and sanity. The Italians are moving into a tactical vacuum where the environment kills you faster than a bullet. The Ghibli, the hot desert wind, is already picking up, turning the sky a bruised purple and filling every lung, every gun breech, and every engine filter with abrasive, flour-fine dust. This isn't just a border skirmish. This is the opening move in a contest for the jugular of the British Empire. If the Axis takes the Suez, the Mediterranean becomes an Italian lake. The route to India is severed, and beyond the canal, the vast oil fields of the Middle East wait fuel that Hitler's war machine is desperate to drink. For the first few months, it looks like a stalemate of incompetence. The Italians advance 60 miles to Sidi Barrani and stop, digging in, paralyzed by their own logistics. They build a series of fortified camps, strung out like beads on a necklace, disconnected and isolated. Then comes the response. December 9, 1940, Operation Compass. General Richard O'Connor, commander of the Western Desert Force, doesn't have the numbers. He is outnumbered 5-1. But he has something the Italians don't: the Matilda II tank. The British attack at dawn, roaring out of the cold desert night. It is a slaughter. The Italian anti-tank shells simply bounce off the Matilda's thick armor like hail off a tin roof. You can hear the panic over the Italian radio frequencies as their defensive lines shatter. The Queen of the Desert, as the Matilda is known, grinds through the camps. In 10 weeks, the British push the Italians back 500 miles. They capture 130,000 prisoners. The footage from this era shows endless columns of surrendered Italian soldiers trudging west, defeated not just by British steel, but by a total collapse of morale. The road to Tripoli seems wide open. The Allies are drunk on victory. They believe the war in Africa is effectively over before it truly began. But this victory creates a dangerous illusion. It masks the reality that desert warfare is a pendulum. As the British advance, their supply lines stretch to the breaking point. Every gallon of water and fuel must be trucked hundreds of miles from the Nile Delta. The further they go, the weaker they get. And in Berlin, a decision has been made that will turn these sands into a graveyard. February 12, 1941, Tripoli Harbor. A Heinkel, He-111 touches down on the tarmac. The heat shimmer distorts the figure stepping off the plane, but the silhouette is unmistakable. He wears a leather greatcoat despite the sweltering sun. Around his neck hangs the Pour le Mérite. Lieutenant General Erwin Rommel has arrived. He brings with him the Deutsches Afrikakorps. They are not like the demoralized Italian conscripts. These are hardened veterans equipped with Panzer III and IV tanks, and supported by the terrifying 88mm anti-aircraft guns which Rommel intends to use against tanks. The British command ignores the intelligence reports. They assume the Germans need months to acclimatize, to unload, to prepare. They are wrong. Rommel doesn't wait. He doesn't defend. He attacks. On March 24th, the Afrika Korps strikes at El Agheila. It is a blitzkrieg in the sand. The British forces, overextended and confident, are caught completely off guard. The pendulum swings violently back the other way. You can see the chaos as British communication lines are cut. Tanks are outmaneuvered in the open desert, picked off at long range by German gunnery that is superior in every way. The Desert Fox begins to carve his legend. He pushes the British back and back and back. The same ground that was won with British blood just months ago is surrendered in days. The retreat is frantic. Vehicles are abandoned. Men are left behind. There is only one holdout. A small, strategic port city that becomes a thorn in Rommel's side. A place that will become a byword for stubborn resistance. The retreating Australians and British troops slam the gates shut at a fortress called Tobruk. And as the German tanks surround the perimeter, the siege begins. The easy war is over. The nightmare has just started. August 14th, 1941, 11:30 hours, the Red Line, Tobruk perimeter, the flies. That is what you notice first. Not the artillery, not the sniper fire, but the black, buzzing clouds that swarm your eyes, your nose, and the edge of your tin cup. You are dug into a foxhole in the most besieged city on earth. The temperature is hovering near 110 degrees. You are one of the rats of Tobruk, a name given to you by German propaganda broadcaster Lord Ha-Ha, intended as an insult. But here, amidst the rubble and the dust, the Australians, British, and Polish troops wear it like a badge of honor. For 241 days, this port city holds out. Rommel throws everything he has at the perimeter. Stuka dive bombers scream down from the vertical, planting 500-pound bombs into the harbor. Infantry assaults break against the minefields and barbed wire. But the rats do not break. They raid at night, crawling through the dark with bayonets and grenades, terrifying the German besiegers. It is a stalemate of exhaustion. But outside the wire, the pendulum is swinging again. In November 1941, the British launch Operation Crusader. It is a messy, confused brawl of a battle, but it succeeds in one crucial way. It breaks the siege. Rommel, critically low on fuel and supplies, is forced to retreat. The relief is palpable. The Allies believe, once again, that they have the Desert Fox on the run. But the desert is cruel to optimists. May 26, 1942. The Gazala Line. Fast forward 6 months. The British 8th Army has established a massive defensive line stretching from the coast at Gazala deep into the desert to a place called Bir Hakeim. It is a wall of mines, fortified boxes, and tank brigades. It is designed to stop Rommel cold. But Rommel doesn't do what he's supposed to do. At night, under the cover of a full moon, the entire Afrika Korps performs a sweeping right hook. They drive south, around the flank of the British line, thousands of vehicles navigating by the stars. By dawn, Rommel is behind the British defenses. It is a masterstroke, but it almost destroys him. Rommel's panzers run into the new American-made M3 Grant tanks. For the first time, the British have a tank with a 75mm gun that can match the Germans. The surprise is total. The Germans are hammered. Rommel's supply trucks are cut off. His tanks are running on fumes. He is trapped in a killing zone known as the Cauldron, with British minefields at his back and British armor to his front. This is the moment the Allies could win the war in Africa. One coordinated strike could crush the Afrika Korps forever. But the British command hesitates. They attack piecemeal one brigade at a time, disjointed and uncoordinated. Rommel sees the mistake. He sets a trap. He creates a wall of anti-tank fire using his lethal 88mm flak guns. When the British tanks charge, they drive straight into a slaughter. The Cauldron turns into a graveyard for British armor. You can hear the screech of metal and the explosion of ammunition racks as tank after tank boils up. In a matter of days, the 8th Army's armored strength is gutted. The hunter has become the prey. June 21, 1942, Tobruk. The catastrophe culminates here. Rommel, having smashed the Gazala line, turns his sights back to the prize that eluded him the year before. This time, there will be no siege. The German assault is ferocious and swift. They punch a hole in the perimeter at dawn. By evening, swastika flags are flying over the harbor. The surrender is shocking. 33,000 Allied soldiers lay down their arms. Vast stockpiles of fuel, food, and truck supplies Rommel desperately needs fall into German hands intact. It is the second largest capitulation of the British Army in the war, second only to Singapore. In Washington, D.C., Prime Minister Winston Churchill is with President Roosevelt when the news arrives. Churchill is physically shaken. He calls it a disgrace. The psychological blow is immense. The rats have finally been exterminated. The road to Egypt is now wide open. There is no defensive line left. No fresh armored divisions waiting in reserve. The British 8th Army is a broken, retreating rabble fleeing east toward a tiny, obscure railway stop near the Nile Delta. Rommel sends a message to Berlin. "I will be in Cairo in a week." He smells the oil of the Middle East. The British are burning classified documents in the embassy in Cairo, preparing to evacuate. The Axis victory seems inevitable. But at that obscure railway stop, a new commander is about to take charge. A man who wears a beret, carries 2 badges on his cap, and claims he will not retreat one single inch further. August 12, 1942, the British Embassy, Cairo. It is known as Ash Wednesday. If you look up at the sky over Cairo, you don't see clouds. You see flakes of burnt paper drifting down onto the streets. The British High Command is burning everything. Maps, code books, personnel files. The smoke is thick with the smell of defeat. The panic is real. The Axis forces are only 60 miles away at a whistle-stop station called El Alamein. Rich Cairenes are packing their jewelry and fleeing to Palestine. Mussolini is reportedly preparing a white horse to ride triumphantly past the pyramids. But out in the desert, at that final defensive line, a short, sharp-nosed man in a baggy sweater is about to change the physics of the war. August 13, 1942, 8th Army Headquarters. Lieutenant General Bernard Law Montgomery arrives like a shock to the system. He is arrogant, prickly, and absolutely convinced of his own genius. And he is exactly what the shattered 8th Army needs. His first order is to burn the contingency plans for retreat. "There will be no withdrawal," he tells his officers. "We will stand and fight here. If we can't stay here alive, then let us stay here dead." He transforms the psychology of the army. He visits the men, tossing out cigarettes, telling them they are going to knock the stuffing out of the enemy. You can feel the spine of the army stiffening. Strategically, Montgomery is lucky. He has chosen the one place in North Africa where Rommel cannot use his greatest weapon, mobility. El Alamein is a geographical bottleneck. To the north is the Mediterranean Sea. To the south is the Qattara Depression, a vast, impassable sinkhole of salt marshes and quicksand. No tank can cross it. Rommel cannot flank. He cannot hook. He has to smash straight through the front door. August 30, 1942, the Battle of Halfa. Rommel tries anyway. He is sick, suffering from dysentery and liver issues, but he knows time is against him. He launches his panzers in a desperate attempt to lure the British tanks into the open. But Montgomery doesn't bite. He orders his tanks to dig in, hull down, and let the Germans come to them. Rommel's fuel tankers, targeted by Allied intelligence and hammered by the Royal Air Force, fail to arrive. The panzer divisions grind to a halt in the soft sand, their engines sputtering. For the first time, the Desert Fox is outfoxed. He is forced to withdraw. The threat to Cairo is over. Now the buildup begins. September, October 1942. The Logistics War. The desert becomes a parking lot for the arsenal of democracy. The Americans have arrived in force not with men, but with metal. Specifically, the M4 Sherman tank. The Sherman is a revelation. It has a 75mm gun in a rotating turret. It is reliable. It is fast. 300 of them are rushed to the front. Alongside them are 1,000 guns and 200,000 men. The 8th Army is becoming a sledgehammer. On the other side of the line, the Germans are digging in. They plant 500,000 mines. They call them the Devil's Gardens. They are layered, booby-trapped, and interlocked with machine gun nests. Rommel, knowing he is outnumbered, flies back to Germany for medical treatment. He leaves General Georg Stumm in charge, believing the British won't attack for weeks. He is wrong. Montgomery isn't just planning an attack. He is planning an orchestration. He creates a massive deception plan, Operation Bertram. They build fake tanks out of plywood in the south to fool the Germans into thinking the attack will come there. They hide the real tanks in the north under sunshades disguised as trucks. The stage is set. The actors are in place. October 23, 1942, 21:30 hours, El Alamein. The moon is full and bright, illuminating the flat desert floor. 200,000 Allied soldiers are lying on their stomachs, waiting. The silence is heavy, broken only by the wind and the distant cough of a nervous sentry. In the artillery lines, thousands of gunners check their watches. They look at their lanyards. You can imagine the tension, sweat dripping onto the metal of the breech blocks, hearts hammering against ribs. This isn't just a battle. It is the turning of the tide. At 21:40, the order is given, fire. The horizon instantly disintegrates. 1,000 guns fire simultaneously. The noise is so loud it is heard in Alexandria 60 miles away. The ground shakes like an earthquake. The flash is so bright you can read a newspaper by it. It is the largest artillery barrage since the First World War. The German positions are churned into dust. The minefields are detonated. The wire is shredded. As the smoke begins to drift across the moonlit sand, the bagpipes of the Highland Division begin to wail. The infantry stand up. They fix bayonets. They step into the minefields. Operation Lightfoot has begun. And for the Axis forces, the gates of hell have just swung wide open. October 24, 1942, 2 o'clock hours. The Devil's Gardens. The artillery has stopped, but the silence is worse. Now you hear the screams. The infantry are moving through the minefields. It is a slow, agonizing crawl. Engineers are on their hands and knees, prodding the sand with bayonets, feeling for the metallic click that means death. If they miss one, a bouncing Betty mine jumps waist-high and sprays shrapnel in a 360-degree arc. Montgomery's plan is not the swift breakout he promised. It is a grinding war of attrition. For days, the British armor tries to push through the gaps, but they are bottled up. The sky is black with smoke. The desert floor is littered with burning hulls of Shermans and Panzers. Rommel rushes back from Germany, his health still failing. When he arrives at his headquarters, the situation report is a death sentence. His fuel is gone. His ammunition is critical. He has 30 serviceable tanks left. Montgomery has 600. Yet, the Germans fight with terrifying discipline. They counterattack again and again, refusing to yield a yard of ground. The battle hangs in the balance. Montgomery is under pressure. The Prime Minister is impatient. The crumbling attacks are costing thousands of lives, but Montgomery has the reserves. Rommel does not. November 2, 1942. Operation Supercharge. Montgomery changes tactics. He stops pecking at the line and throws a massive, concentrated armored fist at a single point. The breakthrough is brutal. The British 9th Armored Brigade is sacrificed to smash the German anti-tank screen. They lose 70 of their 94 tanks in minutes, but they break the line. Through the gap pours the 1st Armored Division. Rommel knows it is over. He signals a general retreat to save his remaining men. But then, a message arrives from Berlin. It is from Hitler personally, to Field Marshal Rommel. As to your troops, you can show them no other road than that to victory or death. Rommel, the loyal soldier, is stunned. He hesitates for 24 hours, a delay that costs him his rearguard. Finally, realizing the order is suicidal insanity, he disobeys. The Afrika Korps begins to run. They flee west, leaving behind their Italian allies who lack the transport to escape. The road to Libya is clogged with burning trucks. The British are chasing them down. It looks like the end of the Axis in Africa. But Rommel is looking over his shoulder at the wrong enemy. November 8, 1942. The coast of Morocco and Algeria. While Rommel stares east at the British, the Atlantic Ocean behind him suddenly fills with ships. Operation Torch has begun. It is the largest amphibious landing in history up to this point. Over 650 ships, 107,000 Allied troops. And for the first time in the European theater, the American GI has arrived. They hit the beaches at Casablanca, Oran, and Algiers. They are green, untested, and led by a general named Dwight D. Eisenhower. They spill out of landing craft into the surf, expecting to fight Nazis. Instead, they find themselves shooting at the French. The Vichy French forces, technically neutral, but under the thumb of Germany, resist. For 3 days, there is a confused, tragic war within a war. Americans kill Frenchmen. Frenchmen kill Americans. Battleships duel in the harbor of Casablanca. But the resistance collapses. The French commanders realize the wind has changed. They switch sides. Suddenly, the strategic map of North Africa has undergone a tectonic shift. Rommel is no longer just fighting a retreat. He is in a vice. Montgomery is the hammer striking from the east. Eisenhower is the anvil waiting in the west. Hitler, furious at the betrayal of the French and the collapse of his southern flank, pours reinforcements into the only foothold he has left, Tunisia. He sends the monstrous Tiger I tanks, 60 tons of invulnerable steel, and thousands of paratroopers. February 14, 1943. The Americans are confident. Too confident. They have raced across Algeria and pushed into the mountains of Tunisia, believing the Germans are on the ropes. They are about to learn a bloody lesson. Rommel, sensing the inexperience of the U.S. troops, launches one last vicious counterstroke. He hits the U.S. the Second Corps at Kasserine Pass. It is a humiliation. The veteran panzers slice through the American lines. U.S. tanks are outgunned and outmaneuvered. American soldiers break and run, abandoning equipment, terrified by the Stuka sirens and the efficiency of the Wehrmacht. General Lloyd Fredendall, the American commander, is commanding from a bunker 80 miles behind the lines, completely out of touch. For a moment, it looks like Rommel might split the Allied armies. But the victory is a mirage. Rommel runs out of fuel again. He pulls back. The shock of Kasserine Pass transforms the American army. Incompetent commanders are sacked. A new man is brought in to whip the demoralized troops into shape. A man with a pearl-handled revolver and a foul mouth, George S. Patton. The Americans and British First Army push from the west. The Axis forces are compressed into a tiny pocket around the city of Tunis and Cape Bon. The Mediterranean is behind them. The Allies are in front of them. There is no fuel. There is no air support. The Luftwaffe has been swept from the skies. The vacuum of hell has become a cage. And the door is about to be locked. March 9, 1943, an airfield near Tunis. The engines of the Heinkel bomber turn over, coughing smoke into the twilight. A man walks slowly up the ramp. He looks older than his 51 years. His face is covered in desert sores. His eyes are sunken. Erwin Rommel is leaving Africa. He has been recalled by Hitler. The official reason is medical leave, But the truth is darker. Hitler knows Tunisia is doomed. He cannot afford the propaganda disaster of having his favorite field marshal captured. So Rommel flies away, looking down one last time at the continent that made him a legend. He leaves behind 250,000 men, Germans and Italians, trapped in a cage with no key. They have been promised evacuation. They have been promised a second Dunkirk. It is a lie. April 18, 1943. The Palm Sunday Massacre. Desperate to supply the trapped army, the Luftwaffe flies waves of slow, lumbering Ru-52 transport planes across the Mediterranean. But the Allies have cracked the German codes. They know exactly when they are coming. You are in the cockpit of a British Spitfire or an American P-40 Warhawk. Below you, the sea is a brilliant blue. Ahead, you see them dozens of clumsy transports flying just above the waves. It is not a dogfight, it is an execution. Allied fighters descend like hawks. In 20 minutes, dozens of German planes are smashed into the sea. The water is littered with floating wreckage and burning gasoline. The umbilical cord to Europe is cut. The Axis army in Tunisia is now starving. May 6, 1943. The final strike. The end comes with a roar. The British First Army launches the final offensive, Operation Vulcan. They punch through the mountain defenses at Longstop Hill. The Americans seize Bizerte. The German command collapses. General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim, Rommel's successor, signals Berlin. We have fired our last cartridge. May 13, 1943. 11:45. Hours, Tunisia. Silence falls over North Africa. For 3 years, the desert has echoed with the sound of cannon fire. Now the only sound is the wind and the shuffling of boots. The surrender is staggering. It is larger than Stalingrad. Over 230,000 Axis soldiers emerge from their foxholes with their hands up. The lines of prisoners stretch for miles. They are not the arrogant conquerors of 1940. They are emaciated, sun-blinded, and relieved. They are herded into makeshift camps, their war over. The North Africa campaign is finished. Epilogue. Why it mattered as the dust settles and the prisoner ships sail for America and Britain, we have to ask, was it worth it? Historians sometimes call North Africa a sideshow. They argue that the real war was being fought on the Eastern Front in Russia. But look closer. If the Allies lose North Africa, the Suez Canal falls. The oil of the Middle East flows to Hitler. The Mediterranean becomes an Axis lake, forcing Allied ships to travel thousands of extra miles around Africa to reach Russia or India. But more importantly, North Africa was the school of war. In 1942, the American army was green, disorganized, and naive. Kasserine Pass broke them, but it also remade them. North Africa is where the U.S. Army learned how to fight. It is where Eisenhower learned to command a coalition. It is where the British proved the Wehrmacht was not invincible. Without the lessons of the desert, the invasion of Normandy in 1944 would have been impossible. The desert victory cracked open the soft underbelly of Europe. 2 months later, the Allies would launch the invasion of Sicily, then Italy, knocking Mussolini out of the war and forcing Hitler to divert precious divisions south, away from Russia and France. Today, if you go to the desert now, the wind has scrubbed away the tank tracks. The foxholes have filled with sand. But if you look closely, you can still find them. Rusted jerry cans, bleached bones, shards of twisted steel. They are the silent monuments to a war fought in the most hostile environment on Earth. A war where water was more precious than gold, where the heat killed as many as the bullets, and where the tide of World War II finally, irrevocably, turned.